What is happening, YouTube? Hey, welcome back to the channel. If you guys are new to the channel, please, housekeeping first, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Like, share, comment, share it. Be a friend, tell a friend. Also, shout out to my cousin Kevin Herb Music. Link is in the description for all of his platforms. Well, most of his platforms. You can also find him on Pandora, Apple Music, Spotify, and just about any type of streaming service you guys can find him on. He does all of our background music from all of our videos, things like that, to include what you're hearing now. He makes it, mixes it, produces it, all that stuff himself. It's all instrumentals. Next, we are going to jump right into this. This is the 1 year review for our 2023. Yes, it is a 2023 CRF 250F. We have dumped a little bit of money into this thing. Yes, a lot of the mods are very inexpensive mods. We'll go ahead and dive into that with a current update of what I've got done to this thing as it sits, as well as the pros and the cons of this bike straight from the factory and why we kind of did what we did as far as mod wise. Again, everything was pretty cost effective, minus the elephant in the room, the can right here behind me. That was probably the most expensive thing next to the bike. So regardless, we will go ahead and jump right into this thing. And just for your reference, the bike does have roughly about 65 hours on it. So it has been ridden a good little bit, at least when we can. So let's get into it. So I know I've got some videos out there with as far as a lot of my upgrades and things like that as I've kind of gone about. However, we're gonna go ahead and touch base real quick on all of these, kind of just run you guys real quick through them. Starting off, we've got the Mika Metals handlebars. These are the oversized bars, 1 1/8, the Pro Taper pillow top grips, which do need replacing here, time probably yesterday. We do have the Tusk D-Flex hand guards here. I do not like running bark busters. I've got multiple reasons for it. Anyway, personal opinion there. So anyway, went with the Tusk D-Flex, love them. These things have seen some beatings all throughout both sides. I've bent them, they can come right back out. They've been awesome for me. And just to give you guys kind of an update as far as how tall I am 6'1". So we will jump into as far as the suspension as well that's been done on this bike, which will also help as far as you taller riders, but also looking for an inexpensive way just to really kind of raise the bike up a little bit, but also give you a heck of a lot more feel and control. And we'll get into that in the pros and cons. That goes down to the suspension, y'all. I do have a Corona linkage here, and I do also have the cleat there, the little shackle there for the rear shock, as well as I am running a BBR heavy duty rear spring. This was very cost effective. This right here, it did raise the bike up. You do have settings where you can set it on low, you can keep it at the stock ride height, or put it at high. What I will tell you about that is if you do have it set on high, it does raise the bike up a total of 3 inches from the overall seat height. Now, I did modify mine, and as you saw, I do have it sitting on the low setting, which actually gave me about 1.5 inches, a little bit more as far as seat height goes. We were trying this bike out for a lot of enduro stuff, you know, doing a lot of rocks and stuff like that for uphills. And I felt like I wanted that control, you know, maybe just a little bit lower instead of that full 3 inches. So I did try it on that. I may end up raising it up here again and put it back on that high setting. But to go along with that, we also have this. Afterthought of letting me elaborate on that is this is also with the rear cleat on this rear shock. So that obviously raised it up a good little bit. So by keeping it on the low setting, I also still gained that height from the rear cleat. We do have the BBR heavy duty fork springs, as well as your anchor as far as the fork extenders there for the little risers and all that kind of bring the bike out to sit level. Kind of making our way to the rear of the bike. I did end up upgrading just as far as the caliper guard. I did end up cracking the other one, put a split right across the side and the top of it. So anyway, I did upgrade to the Tusk for the rear caliper guard here. The elephant in the room, yes, of course, and it is obviously used, is the Yoshimura RS2. And again, I will get into these mods a little bit more in depth for the pros and cons and what these mods have kind of done for me along the way. Going along, we have the Guts Racing seat cover, this gripper seat cover. Y'all, this is absolutely amazing. Especially since this bike is a tractor just climbing these hills. It does need to be pulled a little bit tighter, but regardless, this thing has been phenomenal. Keeps me planted right there, obviously where you can see the ripples. It keeps me planted on that seat going up hills. I absolutely love it. And I do also have the airbox kit, which is a little bit bigger air filter. It does open up the airbox as far as puts kind of like a scoop on it as well. So I am running that. And then we will go ahead and move on down to the rear sprocket. I am running a 51 tooth rear sprocket. 50 is the stock size. I am running the 51 just for a little bit more bite, but I didn't want to sacrifice too much. I mean, my first gear pretty much is not there. And that is probably it does kind of suck. My buddy's got a 48 on his, and he can really pull as far as, a little bit longer in his gears as far as that goes. First gear on this thing really regardless isn't too useful as far as a lot of trail riding goes. Most of the time you stay in second at the minimum. I flip this thing usually around in third or fourth through the woods in a lot of sections, but that sprocket just does an amazing job, with the re-gearing, and it just grips, it bites. It's been absolutely phenomenal. Now we'll move on to the pairing that I did with the exhaust and the intake is of course the EJK fuel tuner. If you guys do want to know as far as what settings I am running on this, you can check out some of my other videos or drop me a comment. I know you may have to do a little bit of digging to find the exact settings. For the routing of this thing, you can kind of see where I go straight down in between on a lot of this. And then of course I've got it all zip tied and secured up in here. So that's how I ran mine. Obviously preference to you guys, but some people do mount it on top of their airbox. I don't like taking my seat off to adjust it if I ever had to. Right now it runs absolutely amazing. I do not plan on doing any more adjustments to it. Next, we have the kickstand as far as the adapter goes. And this is just, it brings it up to where it kind of gets your kickstand, instead of sitting about right here and in your way of scraping anything or whatnot, it actually puts it up kind of like a lot of your enduro bikes or like your 250RX, it just throws it clean up. It doesn't really give you anything more as far as the way the bike sits. As you can see, mine's still sitting at a pretty heavy angle, but it just it gets it up and moves it out of the way. Also, we do have the oversized foot pegs. These are actually for a CRF250. And you will see, actually, if you go into one of my other videos that was from quite a few months back, I will show you guys there's a little bit of modification for these exact foot pegs, but I do love them dearly. I did not upgrade my shifter. A lot of people have said, about bending, breaking shifters, things like that. Luckily, I have not been one of those people that have done it, nor on the brake lever or ran an issue. So I am running that. I did hollow out as far as my front sprocket cover goes. I did hollow that out. Only reason being is a lot of mud and things were kind of gunking up, and it was just slowing everything. It was such a nuisance. So anyway, I did hollow that out. They do have kits that you can make just to get rid of this. But regardless, to me, Dremel it. I Dremeled it out. That's completely up to you guys, what you guys want to do there. Now moving on to almost done is our Flatland skid plate. I absolutely love this thing. It is held up so well. Every time I'm riding, it is just a blessing. Very last thing, y'all, is the tugger straps, y'all. Tugger straps for the front and then for the rear. These are amazing. I have got mine bolted up as far as right here to the seat bolts. No big deal there. I did take a Dremel though for this, and I did have to hollow out the inside of, it's got like a metal spacer kind of in here, and I just took a Dremel and just barely opened it up a little bit so the bolt could fit through. But y'all, this thing is absolutely amazing. Everybody knows that these bikes are heavy. So without further ado, let's get into the pros and cons of this full 1 year review. All right, we're gonna go ahead and save the best for last. We're gonna get into the cons of this bike first. Who is this bike not for? Really? I couldn't tell you who this bike is not for, honestly. Even if you're a little bit heavier folk, you can do so much. Even if it's as far as the suspension goes on this thing for your front forks, if you still find yourself bottoming out because you do like to hit the motocross track every now and then, yeah, I get it. You could either go Bruce's suspension too. There's a couple other options. There's some people that have done conversions on this thing to put, as far as the XR, like the 400, things like that. Anyway, regardless, you can put a heavier weight fork oil in this thing. That'll help you guys out drastically. I'm only about 165 pounds, so I really don't, as far as trail riding, bottom these things out anymore. I don't really run into that issue. It's super smooth. But that is a huge con, is that if you are a little bit bigger rider, you will want to look at upgrading some of these things. As far as whether it be that you're tall, you may want to raise the bike up just a little bit, which, as I've showed you, it is possible. You can go up to 3 inches over, which is going to be about your size of like your 250, like your race bikes, just about almost into that 450 range, close to it, when this thing is completely up in the air. Anyway, that's something that you'll probably want to look into. As far as your suspension overall goes, it sucks, y'all. It really does. That's the other con on this thing but that goes along with, wanting to upgrade it. Once you upgrade it, y'all, I mean, your possibilities with this thing for as far as the suspension are really sky's the limit on this thing. For inexpensive ways, check out my other videos. Like I said, I have just got the BBR front, the BBR rear, Corona linkage, the cleat, the fork extenders. So that is probably your most cost-effective way of doing it. And then heavier duty fork oil, if you're a little bit heavier. But regardless, that's your cheaper way. Otherwise, you can get it fully tuned to you through Bruce's suspension, or you can, like I said, go with the other XR suspension, things like that. Swap out some triple clamps, whatnot. You can really kind of get kind of crazy with it. The other con to this bike we had just touched on is it is heavy, y'all. I think this bike comes in at like 265 pounds or so. A lot of people may not say, oh, it's not too bad. Well, to me, honestly, from coming racing motocross, having race bikes and all, that is heavy as hell. I'm not even gonna lie. That's pretty heavy. But these tugger straps though, I'm telling you, they do wonders. From riding these trails or getting stuck somewhere, it's awesome, man, just to lean this thing up, on your hip or something, and just grab that tugger strap and just pull it. I mean, and it's even loading the bike up, if I reposition it, I just pick the rear end up and slide it over. It is awesome. Awesome investment for a very low cost to kind of help you guys out with the weight, which really alleviates that con. With it being heavy though, I will say you do have kind of a sense of security. Yeah, you can throw it around, absolutely. If you're comfortable, you're a pretty intermediate advanced rider, you know how to throw a bike around regardless. So the weight is really just gonna make you seem a little bit more stable. To me, in my own opinion, is gonna make it seem a little bit more stable as far as going through some of these rocky areas to where the bike doesn't kind of jump loose. It stays kind of planted a little bit. And the suspension helps out, obviously, with most of that. So let's get into the pros of this bike. Power-wise, y'all, it has so much grunt. Just as far as just being a tractor. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying grunt like some of your 250RX or Kawasaki 250X or your KTMs or whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this thing is so much grunt as far as being a tractor. Y'all, this thing can climb a hill, no problem. If you guys missed our race that we did enter a race, and we were mixed in with pros. We were mixed in with A class, B class. Anyway, we were racing a buddy team, but go check out that footage. You guys will see. We made quite a few passes. We got passed a few times, sure. That was our first race 15 years back, into the scene, but we did do it with this bike. And this thing did absolutely phenomenal. I saw multiple two-strokes, some folks that couldn't, maybe were just tired, or maybe, didn't quite have enough experience with that clutch control on them, but they whiskey throttle them up some of these hills. I caught up to a couple betas, two strokes around the third lap, but this bike did fabulous. The one thing I wish that I would do is the rear tire. I will say another good mod, not really a mod, it's just a replacement of the tire, is, you know, possibly going with like a 110 in the rear. That would probably do you guys wonders, and yes, you can run a 110 in the rear. But that would be absolutely awesome. Anyway, back to the pros. This thing it has grunt, it has that ability just to tractor straight up anything. And I mean minimal effort, and you don't have to worry about the torque getting away from you or anything like that. The biggest thing as far as the mods go is that I did want a little bit more torque in mine, just for snapping out of a lot of the turns, which is where that 51 tooth, some people do run a 52, and that's perfectly fine. I've contemplated going up to a 52, but I wanted my 51 because it really is kind of like that happy medium of it. No, first gear is really not that usable. It is to an extent for your worst case scenarios, but in second gear, you could be darn near just crawling. And I mean, just hit the throttle, and that 50, I mean, you take off. It's amazing how much more torque it kind of gives you in that aspect. And then the exhaust, of course, I will say out of everything, y'all, it's because I'm sure some people have some questions as far as the exhaust, the intake, and the EJK. I will go ahead and tell you, you do not need the EJK to run a full exhaust or to run an airbox kit with the full exhaust or an airbox mod, you know, with the full exhaust. You don't need the EJK. I did it just because not many people have done too much on this bike. So I really wanted to kind of show the variety and the essentials here of what a lot of people do with them. Anyway, I will say I didn't really find too much of a performance aspect come from the EJK. I did find that it did assist it a little bit with as far as our elevation goes, where almost to nothing. It did help it out with as far as stalling out at your way lower speeds, and whether it be first gear, second gear, or whatnot, you know, coming through some single track and stuff, I was finding that the bike was kind of just giving up and just it was done kaput at certain aspects. I'm guessing maybe due to as far as the exhaust and the intake, you know, just that wide mix of, you know, maybe not enough fuel or what have you. But regardless, that was an amazing mod, was the exhaust. That gave me the most spark out of this bike. The airbox really helped open it up and let it breathe a little bit more. So that was an absolute awesome mod, and that's why I did that as well. Kind of going into the handlebars as well. Well, let's take it back to a con. The con is that the stock handlebars suck. I will go ahead and say, Honda, if you have done anything wrong with your bikes, it is, well, as far as the 250F, it comes down to the weight and your handlebars. So please fix those. That'd be awesome. But these handlebars though, you know, raising them up, just, it was better for taller riders. And then of course these oversized bars, it does take a lot of the absorbing of the shock and stuff, you know. I will say out of the race that we just did, I did not get arm pump. I got it, I would say maybe in the sandy areas when we were coming through, maybe like third lap or so, like I was starting to feel it just a little bit, but that kind of comes down to also riding style and you know, kind of doing it to yourself. But a lot of the vibration, the stock bars and stuff, I mean, it is just, it'll run you ragged. Even just going over like rocks and stuff like that, you really feel it. So back as well to more pros on this thing, y'all, is this bike's maintenance is so minimal. I have changed the oil 3 times in the past year, and I just do that just out of habit. One was the break-in oil change, and then another one was the half-year mark, and then of course the 1 year mark I just ended up changing it and all, and it actually looked pretty good. The maintenance on this thing is very minimal. Some people have asked about as far as valve adjustments. I'll be honest, I've never considered as far as checking the valve clearance on this thing. Not even one time. I've owned as far as 450s, race bikes, as far as 250s, things like that. Those, yeah, you're gonna need to check them every now and then. But as far as this, I've had no issue. There's been no indicators that I need to end up checking the valves as far as the clearance goes or anything like that, or, you know, it's been great, y'all. It is amazing just to know that, hey, you keep everything well lubricated as far as, you know, your chain, You check as far as your brake fluid, things like that, which you should not have to really check that often. But change the oil, keep your air filter clean, y'all. Keep that bad boy cleaned, whether you end up spraying it out, let it dry, and then, you know, use some of your foam filter cleaner and stuff, however you want to do it, or gasoline, whatever you do. Regardless, if you take care of the bike, this bike is going to take care of you. I will say that for the money, and I know I've put probably about, we'll say I've probably put about $1,500 into this bike, just as far as skid plate, handlebars, exhaust, EJK, you know, that kind of stuff, suspension. We'll say about $1,500 that I've put into this thing, with a just under 5,000 MSRP. It's been worth it. And that race footage that we've got, as well as, you know, just this thing, the only area that it lacked in was it did not have, of course, the speed and the torque and stuff that some of these race bikes. I mean, you're looking at 20 something horsepower, what, 26 or so. Anyway, horsepower on this thing versus, you know, you run against, whether it be a Honda like the 250RX or a, you know, KX, you know, 250X, you're looking at, you know, 40 plus. So there's your difference there. But as far as a lot of your woods, you know, racing, cross country, things like that, which we do have more planned, this bike does absolutely great in. It really does. And if your riding ability is pretty up there, you can, and you're interested in the race thing, you can absolutely do it. You can do it with this bike. As far as your trail riders go, just your standard have fun. Hey, y'all don't need all these mods, or you don't want them. You don't need them. You really don't. This was just pushing the limits kind of on it at a budget level, to kind of show you guys what this bike can do. And I will tell you that it can absolutely compete. I would say out of our last race, even off the line, starting in second gear off the line, obviously gave a little bit of starting issue as far as just, you know, it takes a little bit longer to crank up. But I will say, with the stock battery, by the way, but I will say out of however many there was on the line, there was only, I believe, 6 or 7 people in front of me through that with the stall there. So, I mean, this thing does compete with some of those bikes. For the haters out there that say, hey, if you're gonna dump all this money, why don't you go buy a race bike? Number one, if I wanted one, I'd go buy one. One is in the plans, just for continuing our seasons. But this will still be brought into some of these buddy class races, which is awesome that me and my buddy Kerry were the 2 CRF250Fs in a buddy class racing with all these guys. However, though, to those haters and all, screw them. Honestly, don't care. Honestly, if I want one, I'll go buy one, which I will go buy one here, you know, probably pretty soon, next few months or so. But regardless, this was about, I would rather build something just to kind of see its capabilities with Honda's reputation, is why I did this. And not many people have done what some of us have done, and more people are getting into doing, which is awesome. From the moment I started this channel, a lot of people have reached out to me, and I'm so thankful for them, because if they've got questions, I'll help answer them. But I think it's also helped guide them into modifying their bikes and showing them either what they're looking for or what they don't want, either way. So with that being said, y'all, this is the 1-year review on this thing. The cons listed, the pros listed. This bike is a fabulous bike, y'all. It really is. I think to this point where it's at, I'm not messing with it. I mean, it's pretty much done. If anything, I've thought about, possibly putting a headlight kit on this thing, just once we get maybe our race bike and start doing a little bit more with that, which will keep you guys posted on what that's gonna be. So that will also be a budget build, trust me. But regardless, y'all, I appreciate every single one of y'all. I thank y'all for sticking with us here for the past almost a year that we have been live as far as on the channel. If you guys do have any questions, you want to know anything at all, I will try and make a video as well of my new EJK settings for the fuel tuner as well, to help some of you guys out if you would like it. But just let me know, and I'll post it as soon as I can. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if y'all got any questions. I would be happy to help answer them, whether it be suspension wise or what you guys can do aside from the springs or whatnot. I know there's some forums out there, Facebook, pages and stuff, even that I'm a part of. But if there's anything I can do to help you guys, please, absolutely let me know. Don't let people talk you down about this bike, man. Don't let people tell you, hey, go get a race bike if you want one. Look, hey, this bike is fun. Even with my other race bikes, I'm not getting rid of this bike. It's still gonna be in a lot of videos. So hey, you do you. If you got anything, hit me up. I appreciate every single one of y'all. Thank you for sticking with me and rambling on. And as always, we'll catch you next time.